In this lesson, we'll explore some advanced shaping techniques available within the PolyBridge node. So we'll pick up right where we left off, and we've just built the bridge between our source polygons that we had selected and our destination polygons. But I'm not real happy with the way that the bridge itself looks. There's some twisting going on here that I don't necessarily want there. Let's kind of just look at the tool set that we have and how we can make some customized adjustments to that. So the first thing that we want to look at really is this default pairing shift. So basically what this does is it defines how the source edges match up to the destination edges. And right now you can see there's a twist. For instance, this polygon here, this edge that I'm looking at right here, instead of coming straight down and matching up with its facing edge, there's a shift. We can fix that just by using a slider here. We'll slide it over one, and you can see that now we've fixed that twisting, and we've got a good 1-to-1 ratio. Now, the next thing that we kind of want to look at here is the spine shape. Now, you can pick from either curved or straight, and you can immediately see the difference here, that the target or the destination and the source have a direct straight line. It's almost just a straight shot from one edge to the next. If we add the curve back in, you can see that you have this sort of push out and then a gradual drop down from the source to the destination. Now you have a little bit more control over this curve than just that. If we look down here in the footings area, you'll see that you have two separate sections that define settings for the source and for the destination. Now keep in mind, when we built the PolyBridge, the first set of polygons that we selected were our source, and the second set around the brake drum were the destination. So with that in mind, changing these sliders for magnitude make a little bit more sense. We're going to go ahead on the source area here, adjust the magnitude. So I'll go ahead and raise it up. And as I do, you can see that what's happening is the direct influence of that curve is being pushed further and further towards the center. All right. Now the same thing holds true if you mess with the magnitude adjustment down here on the destination area. I can also push it up, and you'll see that that influence of that destination curve gets pushed further and further up until eventually it just pops completely out of the wheel assembly. So we'll pick something sort of just in the middle here that balances out that curve as a smooth transition from one to the other. That looks pretty good for me for right now. Okay. The next thing that we want to look at is how we can adjust the actual thickness and rotation of the individual bridges. So let's come back up and look at this bridge tab inside of the PolyBridge tool. I'm going to scroll down here on the right hand side till we come to these two areas defined as local thickness and twist. So local thickness basically gives you the ability to have a general overall thickness adjustment. Okay, so you can make that bridge as thick or thin as you want. And then it also gives you a little more finite control by the use of a ramp. So by default, this ramp comes with a starting and end point. All I need to do is come over here. I can grab the dot that represents this end point and just kind of drag it down if I want. And as I do, I can see that the destination gets thinner and thinner and thinner as it gradually thickens up to the full width available at the source, as does the ramp. Starts off thick here and ends up thin down at the destination. Okay, so as you might imagine, you can do the same thing from the source end. And you also have the ability to add multiple points of your choosing anywhere on the ramp. Now to add a point, all you need to do is just click anywhere in the ramp. So I'm just going to click here. This will give me an extra point. I can click at the one beside it, then add one, and I can just kind of go crazy, make whatever shape I really want here. However, since I'm only using 12 divisions total in my bridge, I don't have quite the detail that I would expect from this kind of complicated ramp. In order to see that detail, I need to come up here and enhance my divisions. So as I get more and more divisions, you can see that I get more and more resolution representing the curves that I'm creating down here on my ramp. At some point when you get enough, you have some really fine detail and you can really begin to play with the subtleties of each individual curve. Now, for me, that's a little bit too fanciful for the style of the vehicle and the wheel that we're making. So I'm just going to reset this ramp back to its defaults. Now remember, to do that, even though I've created all of these individual points, I can hover over the word thickness ramp here, right-click, and revert to defaults. Now the defaults aren't exactly the same as they were at the factory there, so let's go ahead and just sort of level those out. There we go. And let's go ahead and set our divisions from 52 back to, say, 12. It's a little bit better for the resolution that we want the wheel and tire assembly to be. So not only do you have the ability to handle thickness, you also have the ability to handle twists and turns inside of the poly bridge. For example, right now we have 0 full turn twists. Well, let's go ahead and give it 1 or 2 here. So you can kind of see what's happening. The geometry is being given a full rotation. I might have jumped the gun just a little bit on turning my divisions down to see some of this detail. Let's go ahead and increase our divisions again. There we go. Now you can see a little bit better what's happening. So you can build little curly cues here if you'd like. Let's go ahead and set that back down to 0 there. And we also have a ramp that will control how the twisting is handled within the bridge as well. If I want, I can add just a little bit of twist at the very beginning or a little bit at the bottom. And basically what happens is any point on this ramp that is below 0.5 adds a twist in one direction, and anything that is above 0.5 or halfway on the ramp adds a twist in the opposite direction. So really with the new PolyBridge tool here, you can get a lot of creativity going with these individual spokes. And it's really up to you to design the spokes however you want them to look for your vehicle. I'm going to go ahead and just reset this back to its defaults, because I kind of like just that look that we've got right there. Now there's another way that we can actually modify the look of those individual spokes. And that is not using the PolyBridge node at all. Actually, it's using just the methodology of procedural modeling, which is really pretty cool. So we can come up here now that we have these two elements. So basically we have the circle, all of its little poly extrudes and polycaps, which lead us to this point with this piece of geometry. Right? Then we have a secondary piece that has created this piece of geometry from a tube. And then we come down here and we make some splits and make this bridge. But we have the ability now to actually add in nodes anywhere in this chain and have all of it again propagate through the final nodes at the bottom. So I'm just going to add a little transform node here. Again, just tap tab and start to type out the word transform. And notice that I have the ability to rotate these objects now, even with the PolyBridge still applied. So let me rotate around so we can get a little bit better look on this here. And I'm just going to spin that inner brake drum assembly around the x-axis. So I'm going to use my tool here. And notice that no matter where I put that, here we go. No matter where I put that hub, that the bridge stays intact. And the bridge is still obeying all of those individual rules that we set up with the ramps and the divisions and all of that. And Houdini is making sure that it's keeping in touch, that that bridge is staying connected. Now, you might notice here that with this rotate, that my pivot point is off a little bit, that the actual pivot point for the rotate is resting out over here, kind of in the middle of nowhere. Well, in the next lesson, we'll talk about how we can adjust that pivot point, and we'll also get into adding some subdivisions into our actual wheel to give it a little bit better shape.